Hi, my name is Vedasan and I'll be taking topic on verbal ability. I'll be covering spotting errors, sentence correction, passage, and I have also added a topic preposition for your understanding. So going to the first topic, we'll be looking into spotting errors. Spotting errors is where we will be finding out errors or mistakes in a particular sentence that is given. For easy understanding, I have considered 5 sentences and we will be finding where the error is in those sentences. So, and each sentence is divided into 5 parts. So the first sentence here is the prisoners were caught just before they were about to escape the jail, and it is given the fifth one as no error. When there is no error, we'll be considering the option 5. And if we go through the sentence, the prisoners were caught just before they were about to escape the jail, we can find that the prisoners, first sentence, were caught just before, second, and they were about to. Third sentence doesn't have any errors or mistakes. But when it comes to the fourth sentence, escape the jail, that is where the error lies. In case of escape the jail, an article that is used is the. The article is used when we talk about common places like hospitals, schools, etc. So in this case, a jail is a common place, and since we cannot use the word the, cannot use the article the. So I'm adding a new shade to give as to show as answers. So in this case, the first sentence, the mistake is escape the jail. Here, the sentence do not require the. So, we will be correcting here, escape jail. So, the first sentence should be the prisoners were caught just before they were about to escape jail. Now, moving on to the second sentence, Tom's habit of coming late to the office put his colleagues to a lot of trouble. Tom's habit of coming late to the office put his colleagues. Until then, if you read through one again, you will be able to understand that there isn't any errors, no grammatical errors or sentence corrections required. But when it comes to the fourth part of the sentence, it is an idiomatic expression. Idiomatic expressions are used when we want to explain a particular group of emotions or a sentence. So in this case, to lot of trouble is where the error is. If we go through idiomatic expressions, to lot of trouble is a common idiomatic expression used in a sentence. And here we are taking this to correct the error. To lot of trouble should be changed to a lot of trouble. That is the second error that we have found out in the second sentence. Moving on to the third sentence. Although Peter is not an honest man, yet he is not a criminal. No error. So in this case, although Peter is not an honest man, yet he is not a criminal is the sentence. As you know, the basic rule of a sentence is to use a, when we use a and an, we have to make sure whether a vowel is present before it, after it. So in this case, when it comes to a honest man, which is the second part of the sentence, you can see that it is used a honest man, whereas a should be followed by honest man should be corrected as an honest man. So we'll be correcting into an honest man. So the sentence will be, although Peter is not an honest man, yet he is not a criminal. Now let's move on to the next sentences. The fourth sentence is, not only the students but also the teachers was playing football. In this case, you should always note that when a sentence starts with not only, the sentence should follow with but also, as it is given in here. Not only the students but also the teachers was playing football. If you read through the sentence, you can find that the first, second, and third part of sentence do not have any errors. But it comes to the fourth part of the sentence, was playing football is where the mistake is. As you can see, it is followed by a plural. It should be where. So teachers were. This correction we'll be doing in our answer sheet as were playing football. So the correct sentence will be, not only the students but also the teachers were playing football. Fifth sentence is, more than one player have been shortlisted for the scholarship and no error. So if you read through the sentence, the first part of the sentence itself doesn't make sense. More than one is where the sentence correction is required to be. The actual sentence should be more than one, since we are talking about more than one member. So we'll be correcting here as more than one. So the correct sentence will be, more than one player have been shortlisted for the scholarship. I hope our exercise on spotting errors have helped you to understand how to correct a sentence where we have found an error. Now we will be moving on to the next topic, which is sentence correction. So as you know, the spotting errors is mainly based on grammatical errors, while sentence correction, we will be focusing on where the sentence is wrong. Coming to the first sentence. Here also, I have added 5 sentences for your understanding. So the first example is, all neighbors was introduced to the bride. One of the benefit when we compare between spotting errors and sentence correction are, in spotting errors, the error is not highlighted, while in the case of sentence correction, we have the sentence being highlighted to understand where the error is. So all neighbors was introduced to the bride, and we have got 4 options: has introduced, have introduced, were introduced. So here we have all neighbors was introduced to the bride. So when we check through each example, all neighbors has introduced to the bride, all neighbors introduced to the bride, all neighbors have introduced to the bride, all neighbors were introduced to the bride. So here the neighbors is a plural word, and since it here the was introduced is being used, it makes it very easy to identify that the correction is required, and the the correct sentence is were introduced. Since it's already given as was introduced, and since we have a plural before the error, we can consider, we know that it is were introduced. So the correct sentence will be, all neighbors were introduced to the bride. Now, going to the second sentence, because of his mastery in yoga, his yoga academy have grown in popularity. The best way to identify the sentence correction or the error is by putting in each and every options given and reading through the sentence, like how we did in the last sentence. So, because of his mastery in yoga, his yoga academy were growing in popularity. Because of his mastery in yoga, his yoga academy is grow in popularity. Like this, if we go through each option and read through the sentence, it makes more sense and it makes it more easy to identify the correct option to be given for the wrong sentence. So here it's so clear that because of his mastery in yoga, his yoga academy were growing in popularity is not the correct sentence. Now, taking the second one, as we know, we have read through it and it doesn't make sense. And the third one is, because of his mastery in yoga, his yoga academy is growing in popularity. So the third option is the correct sentence to be used. Another method of identifying whether the grammatical sentence that we have selected is correct or not is by choosing understanding whether the sentence is in past tense, future tense, or present tense. So if we take the same example, we can see that here the sentence is in future tense. So because of his mastery in yoga, his yoga academy is growing in popularity is the correct sentence. Now going to the third, the population of China is higher than that of all other country in the world. We have given four options: higher than all other, higher than all other. Here we have a option being repeated. I apologize for that. The third option is greatest than all, and the fourth option is higher than that of any other. So here in this sentence, China as a the China is being compared with all other countries in the world. So the population of China is higher than it's obvious that the China's population is standing above than any other country's population. So in that case, we will be using the fourth option, higher than that of any other. So the correct sentence will be, the population of China is higher than that of any other country in the world. Moving to the fourth sentence, for a few days, the new teacher lectured across the heads of the students. So this is across the heads is an idiomatic expression. As I have mentioned, we have idiomatic expressions, and I have also given an example in the topic spotting errors. So here also we have another idiomatic expression, that is across the heads. So if we go through the sentences for correction, on the heads, over the head, and through the heads of, we have got four options. So the correct idiom to be used is over the heads. It's an idiom that is commonly used in sentences. So for a few days, the new teacher lectured over the heads of the students. It is to express that there has been a lot of lectures, that more than what the students could expect. So that is how the sentence is formed. Now, so the correct answer is over the heads, since it's an idiomatic expression. Moving to the next sentence, the engineers failed in their attempt to build a dam across the river to create a water reservoir. So in this case, if you read through the options, in their attempt of build, for their attempt to build, with their attempt to build, and it is given correction not required. So let's take just the first option into the sentence. The engineers failed in their attempt of build the dam. The sentence itself doesn't make sense and it is wrong grammatically. Now, taking the second option, the engineers have failed off there. Again, we find there is error in the sentence as well as grammatical error. So, when you read through the sentence, you can easily find out that there are no corrections required. So, this is how we do the sentence correction. And this was the last sentence correction. So how we do is we read through the sentences, put in the options where the correction is required to understand where the error is and where which option makes more sense to the sentence. Now we move on to the next topic, which is passage. Passage here, as since for tests or entrance exams for the verbal ability, we usually get a very long passage. But here, since our time is we have time constraint, we are using a short passage. One of the best method to find out the answers after a passage reading is to read through the questions first. So let's go through the questions first. We'll start with the last question. What is the age gap between the first and the last child? Is the last question they have given. Rex is a patient of. The next question. And then the next question is, Rex was the sixth child in a family of. Second question, at the time of birth, Rex was. And the last question, as per the passage, what the word polio reminds. The benefit of reading through the questions before going through the passage is it helps us to identify the answers even before uh, even when we read through the passages, because of a word or a sentence or a particular uh, number. It could all help us to identify the answers. So here we go through the passage. Today, perhaps the word polio reminds you only the Sabin oral vaccine that protects children from his fatal disease. The scenario was different around 55 years ago. Polio mainly affects the brain and spinal cord and causes stiffening and weakening of muscles, crippling and paralysis. This is the reason why Rex is in a wheelchair today. When he was born, no one would have predicted that he would suffer from polio. He was the sixth child in a family of three pairs of brothers and sisters with a huge 20-year age gap between the first and last. Although he was healthy at the time of birth, he was affected by polio. So since we have gone through the questions first, reading the passage, it will remind us of the questions we have gone through. So here we can easily identify the number of siblings the Rex is having and also the age gap and what it was called, the polio, what it was called before. So let's start with the question 1. As per the passage, what the word polio reminds. So here, going through the sentence here. Today, perhaps the word polio reminds you only the Sabin oral vaccine. So the first the first question, the answer is Sabin oral vaccine. Now, going to the second question. At the time of birth, Rex was. So, like I have already mentioned, reading through the questions, we will be able to remind ourselves a word or a number when we read through the passage and mark it down so that it becomes easy to answer to the questions given in the passage. So, in the second question, they have asked, at the time of birth, Rex was. And the answer is given in, although he was healthy at the time of birth. Although he was healthy at the time of birth. So it answers the second question, very healthy. Going to the third question. Rex was the sixth child in a family of. So here it makes it easy for us to identify where we have to go for the answer. So since we have read through the passage and first we have read through the questions, it reminds us that the answer lies in the passage. So here it is. He was the sixth child in a family of three pairs of brothers and sisters. So that makes him the sixth child. So the answer is, sorry, the answer is six children. Now, fourth question. Rex is a patient of polio. Since we have already, although he was healthy, at the time of birth, he was affected by polio. So the answer is polio. And since we have gone through the question, sorry. So, since we have already gone through the passage and the questions, it makes it very easy for us to answer. And the fifth one is, what is the age gap between the first and the last child? Now, if you go back to the passage, it is given. He was the sixth child in a family of three pairs of brothers and sisters with a huge 20 years age gap between the first and the last. That means there was an age gap of 20 years between his siblings and him. So 20 years is the answer. So, like I have told you, so this was our last question in the passage. So, as I have told you, whenever you get a lengthy passage, before going through the lengthy passage, it will be very useful if you go through the questions and then read through the passage. So it will remind you of a particular word so that you can even mark it down those sentences which you think is relevant. Then it makes it more easier, especially in case of lengthy passages. Rather than spending your time reading through, you can easily get into the answers. Now, the next topic, which is actually an addition to all other topics, is the preposition. The use of preposition is very important for any test. So that is why I have included that topic also for your understanding. So I have included very less examples because it's for a just as a part of understanding, and it rarely comes for tests, but it will really help you through to crack CAT or any entrance exams. So the first one is, it is another 2 weeks the dash the exams. So until to either A or B, none of the above. So in this case, it is another 2 weeks the exams until to either A or B or none of the above. So here in this sentence we are counting time. So here we can use until or to. The main reason we are using either A or B is because here the preposition counts time. So it's another 2 weeks, means it points out the time. So it can be used until or to. The next question, It would not be easy for her to support her family as she has nothing dash her pension. So except, besides, apart from, all of the above. In this case, the sentence is it would not be easy for her to support her family as she has nothing. So we have used no, now, not and nothing in the sentence. That means the sentence is of a negative sense. So since we are using a sentence which have not and nothing, which means that we can use except or apart from. Except and apart from can be used when we will be except and apart from can be used when not or nothing is used in the same sentence. Now going to the last last question. She's wearing a gold ring dash her finger. So when we have to use in a sentence where it describes a body part, for example, an ornament or anything of sort is being expressed that is being on a body part, we always use on. So in this case, we will be using she is wearing a gold ring on her finger. The reason is because we have used of her finger, which is a body part. So always remember when we have to place something on a body part, we always use on. Similarly, in the case of we have two negatives happening in a sentence or the sentence itself is a negative which have not or nothing, we'll be using except or apart from. And above that, here we have, since we are counting time, we will be using the preposition until or to. So this is how we will be able to identify the prepositions, and also going through prepositions and articles and idiomatic expressions, it will be very useful to crack any entrance exam or competitive exam. So I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope it will help you to crack the verbal ability session, and please go through all other topics and understand the grammatical errors also. Thank you.